Alright, I got the weathering done on it, and now I'm installing landing gear, finally. I think it turned out really well. That's all oil paints and a little bit of odorless turpentine, odorless thinners. And then you just dot it where you want it, and then drag it with a broad brush that's slightly damped with the thinners, and keep dragging it in the direction of the airflow that you want it to go. And if it gets too light, you add a little more. If it's too heavy, you take a little bit of it away with that damp brush, and then let it sit for a few days, and those oil paints dry up. And that's how she looks. Very dirty on the bottom, which is, very typical of a radial engine. You expect to see it pretty dirty, streaking from the cowl all the way to the back. The ammunition discharge chutes underneath the wing, or the shell casing discharge chutes, I should say. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. Trying to get the landing gear on, main gears, and then the inner doors, and then the tires. We'll finally get the rudder installed. I haven't put that on yet because of this very tip antenna. I don't want to bust it off. There is another antenna that goes on the top of the fuselage behind the cockpit. So very delicate there. And of course the sliding canopy will go on. Propeller is weathered as well. Alright, we'll come back here in a little bit and hopefully it'll be finished. Well, it's a bugger trying to get everything in there, but there it is. That landing gear is fiddly and delicate. But it's in place. Glue is drying on it. Once that glue gets well set, then I'll get the tires added to it. Once we get the tires on, we can roll her back over and finish up with the rest of it. Alright, here she is. I'm calling her done. Weathered, put together. Sorry, I don't have an electric turntable, so I gotta do this by hand. I'm very pleased with it. It is straight out of box. The only thing I've done that was not part of the instructions and wasn't really called for in the kit at all is, and it's very visible in the reference photos that I have, and that is the antenna wire that goes from the tip of the rudder to this mast behind the cockpit, and then another wire that comes down to the side of the fuselage on the left side. In reference photos, that is a very visible part of the aircraft, and in the instructions, it's just not even mentioned. So what I did, I drilled a small hole in the appropriate location on the left side of the fuselage, and I used one of the spare bulb teardrops, the wingtip lights, and there's a light on top of the spine. I used one of those spares, painted it white as per my references, and then stretched sprue thin enough that it looked like an antenna wire to my eye. It's not overly out of size or out of scale. I think it looks appropriate. Then I super glued it into place with CA, and then took a brush and used semi-gloss black, the Tamiya semi-gloss black, and I think it looks the part. I may have to do a little bit of cleanup around these roundels. There's a little bit of a halo effect, and I'm not sure if that's from the carrier film removal or what's going on with that. So I might need to address that before competition next weekend. Like I said, it's my first time ever going to a competition, let alone entering a model in it. So I don't expect much to come from that, other than to see other people's work and then compare mine to see where I can improve. Yeah. And I will say, to date, this is probably my best work. I don't think I've ever done one quite as thoroughly as this one and quite as accurately as this one. Let me tip it over quickly and I'll show you the bottom side. All right. So there you go. Thank you all for joining me on this little journey, on this build.